Sam never wanted to go back to his grandfather's village. He had not been there since he was 7 years old. Now he was 25, and life had forced him to return. His grandfather, Old Hari, had died 3 weeks ago, and someone had to go and take care of the old house. His mother could not travel because of her bad knees. His father was too busy with work. His older sister lived in another country, so the job fell on Sam. He took a bus from the city early in the morning. The journey was long and boring. The road got narrower and rougher as the bus moved deeper into the countryside. Green fields stretched out on both sides. Small rivers crossed under old stone bridges. The sky was wide and pale blue, and there were no tall buildings anywhere. Sam looked out the window and felt like he was traveling back in time. The bus dropped him at a small stop near a tea shop. From there he had to walk about 2 kilometers to reach the village of Mirpur. He picked up his bag, put it on his shoulder, and started walking along the dirt road. The air smelled different here. It smelled like wet earth and wildflowers and something old that he could not name. When he reached Mirpur, the first thing he noticed was how quiet it was. Too quiet. He remembered the village from his childhood as a busy, noisy place. Children used to run around in the streets. Women used to wash clothes near the well. Men used to sit under the big banyan tree and talk loudly about politics and weather. But now, the streets were almost empty. A few old people sat on their doorsteps and watched him with tired eyes. No children played anywhere. The well had dried up. The banyan tree was still there, but it looked sick. Its leaves were yellow and falling. Sam felt a strange feeling in his stomach. Something was wrong here. He found his grandfather's house at the end of the village lane. It was a big old house made of stone and wood. The walls were cracked. The paint had come off long ago. The front door was made of heavy dark wood, and it made a loud sound when Sam pushed it open. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Old furniture stood like sleeping ghosts. The air was thick and smelled like old books and medicine. Sam dropped his bag on the floor and looked around. He remembered this place. He remembered sitting on his grandfather's lap in the big wooden chair near the window. He remembered the stories old Hari used to tell him, stories about kings and demons and hidden treasures. Sam had loved those stories when he was a child. Now they just made him feel sad. He cleaned up one room enough to sleep in and decided to stay for a few days. He had to find the property papers, talk to the local officials, and maybe sell the house. He did not plan to stay long. His job, his small apartment, his normal life. But the next morning, something happened that changed everything. Sam woke up early because of a strange sound. It was a knocking, not on the front door, but somewhere inside the house. He sat up in bed and listened. The knocking came again. 3 slow knocks, then silence, then 3 more. It was coming from below, from under the floor. Sam got out of bed and followed the sound. It led him to the back room of the house, a room his grandfather had always kept locked. Sam remembered asking about it as a child, and old Hari had always said the same thing. That room is not for little boys. When you are ready, you will know. The door was locked, but Sam found a bunch of old keys in a drawer in the kitchen. He tried them one by one until one of them turned. The door opened with a long, painful sound. Inside, the room was dark and cold. Sam used his phone light to see. There was a wooden table in the center, with papers and maps spread all over it. On the walls there were strange drawings. They looked like maps of the village, but with lines and circles and symbols that Sam did not understand. And on the floor, there was a large stone slab that was different from the rest of the floor. It had marks on it, like someone had tried to move it many times. The knocking had stopped, but Sam's heart was beating fast. He bent down and looked at the stone slab closely, There were words carved into it. They were in an old language, but Sam could read a few words. Below this stone lies the path to what was lost. Sam tried to move the stone, but it was too heavy. He needed help. He went outside and looked for someone in the village. He found an old woman sitting near a broken wall, peeling potatoes. Her name was Kamla, and she had known his grandfather well. "You are Hari's grandson," she said, before Sam could even introduce himself. Her eyes were sharp, even though her face was full of wrinkles. "He said you would come." "He did?" Sam was surprised. "He said you would come when the village needed you." Sam did not understand. "What does the village need me for?" Kamla put down her potatoes and looked at him with serious eyes. "You have seen how empty this place is, how dead it feels. It was not always like this. 20 years ago, Mirpur was full of life. Then people started leaving. Young people went to the cities. Families moved away. Shops closed. The school shut down. The well dried up. It was like the life was being sucked out of this place." "That happens to many villages," Sam said. "Yes, but not like this. Not this fast, and not with the strange things that happen at night." Sam felt a chill run down his back. "What things?" Kamla looked around, as if she was afraid someone was listening. "Lights in the forest, sounds from underground, animals disappearing. And the fog. Every night, a thick fog covers the village. It comes from the direction of the old fort on the hill. And every morning, the village feels a little more dead." Sam looked towards the hill. He could see the ruins of an old fort sitting on top of it, like a broken crown. He had never been there as a child. Old Hari had always told him to stay away from it. "My grandfather," Sam said slowly. "Did he know about all this?" Kamla nodded. "He knew more than anyone. He spent his last years trying to find the answer. He went to the fort many times. He dug under his own house. He studied old books and maps. He was looking for something." "What was he looking for?" "The heart of Mirpur," Kamla said. "He believed that long ago something was buried under this village, something that gave it life and power, and he believed that someone or something was stealing that power." Sam stood there in the warm morning sun, but he felt cold inside. He had come here to sign some papers and sell a house. Now he was standing in a dying village, listening to an old woman talk about buried secrets and stolen power. He should have walked away. He should have gone back to the bus stop and taken the next bus home, but he could not, because deep inside, a small voice was telling him that this was exactly where he was supposed to be. Old Hari had known it. Kamla had known it. And now, slowly, Sam was beginning to know it too. He took a deep breath and looked at the old fort on the hill. "Tell me everything," he said. Kamla told Sam everything she knew, and it was more than he expected. They sat under the dying banyan tree, and she spoke in a low voice, as if the wind itself might carry her words to the wrong ears. "Long ago," she said, "Mirpur was not just any village. It was special. Hundreds of years back, a wise man had come to this place. He was not a king or a warrior. He was a keeper of knowledge. He carried with him something that people called the Stone of Breath. Nobody knew exactly what it was. Some said it was a glowing crystal. Some said it was a piece of a fallen star. Others said it was something even older, something from a time before humans built their first home. Whatever it was, the wise man buried it deep under the ground where Mirpur now stood, and from that day the village had flourished. The soil became rich. The water became sweet. The people became healthy and strong. Crops grew tall. Children laughed, and no great sickness ever touched the village. For centuries, a line of guardians protected the secret. They made sure nobody disturbed the stone. They kept the balance. Old Hari was the last of these guardians. "Your grandfather tried to train a successor," Kamla said. "But his own son, your father, did not believe in these things. He called them superstitions and left for the city. Hari was heartbroken. He hoped that one day, one of his grandchildren would return. Sam listened quietly. Part of him wanted to laugh. Magical stones and ancient guardians sounded like the stories his grandfather used to tell him at bedtime. But another part of him could not ignore what he had seen. The dying village, the strange room, the carvings on the stone slab, the knocking from underground. "You said someone is stealing the power," Sam said. "Who?" Kamla's face became dark. "There is a man. He came to this area about 5 years ago. His name is Vikram Shetty. He is a rich businessman from the city. He bought the land around the old fort and started some kind of mining operation. He said he was digging for minerals, but people who have worked for him say he is digging for something else, something specific." "The stone," Sam whispered. "Yes, we think he found out about it somehow. Maybe from an old book, maybe from a stolen map. We do not know. But ever since his digging started, the village has been dying faster. The fog comes every night from the direction of his land. The ground shakes sometimes. And last month, 2 families left because their children started getting sick for no reason." Sam felt anger rising in his chest. "Why has nobody stopped him? Why has nobody gone to the police?" Kamla smiled sadly. "He is a rich man, Sam. Rich men do not get stopped easily. He has connections. He has lawyers. He even has some local officials in his pocket. The few villagers who complained were threatened. One man, Raju the carpenter, went to the police station to file a report. The next day, his workshop burned down. After that, nobody said anything." Sam sat in silence for a long time. The sun moved across the sky. Shadows shifted around them. Finally, he stood up. "I need to open that stone slab in my grandfather's house," he said. "Can you help me find someone strong enough?" Kamla thought for a moment. "There is Balu. He is the blacksmith. He is the strongest man in the village, but he is also the most frightened. His wife is sick, and he is afraid of making trouble." "Take me to him," Sam said. Balu the blacksmith was a big man, with thick arms and a broad chest, but his eyes were full of worry. He lived in a small house near the edge of the village, with his wife, Sita, who lay in bed looking pale and thin. She had been healthy until a few months ago, Balu said. No doctor could find the reason. Sam looked at the sick woman and felt his determination grow stronger. "Balu, I need your help. I think what is happening to your wife is connected to what is happening to the whole village. My grandfather was trying to fix it before he died. I want to continue his work." Balu looked at Sam with doubtful eyes. "You are a city boy. What do you know about these things?" "Nothing," Sam admitted honestly. "But I know that doing nothing is not working. The village is dying. Your wife is getting sicker. If we do not act, there will be nothing left to save." Balu looked at his wife. Sita opened her eyes and gave a small nod. That was enough. Balu stood up and said, "Show me this stone." They went back to the old house. With Balu's strength and Sam's help, they managed to slide the heavy stone slab to one side. Underneath it was a set of stone steps going down into darkness. Cold air rushed up from below, carrying a smell that was strange and old, like ancient earth mixed with something metallic. Sam showed his phone light down the steps. They were steep and narrow, carved into solid rock. He could not see the bottom. "I am going down," Sam said. "Are you mad?" Balu said. "You do not know what is down there." "That is exactly why I need to go." Sam went down the steps carefully. Balu stayed at the top, ready to pull him up if anything went wrong. The steps went down about 30 feet. At the bottom, Sam found himself in a small underground room. The walls were smooth stone, covered with carvings similar to the ones in the room above. There were pictures of people, animals, trees, and rivers. And in the center of the carvings, there was always the same symbol repeated again and again. It looked like a circle with a flame inside it. On the floor of this room, there was a round hole, about the size of a football. The hole was empty. Around it the stone was cracked and blackened, as if something hot had been pulled from it. Sam understood immediately. This was where the stone of breath had been. Someone had already taken it, or moved it, or it had been taken long before. He searched the room carefully and found a small metal box hidden in a crack in the wall. Inside the box were papers, old papers, yellow and fragile. They were written in his grandfather's handwriting. Sam carried the box back up and sat with Balu and Kamla to read the papers. They were old Hari's notes, written over many years. In them, he described his discoveries. The stone of breath had been moved long ago, Hari wrote, by a guardian who feared it would be found by outsiders. The guardian had hidden it inside the old fort on the hill. He had sealed it in a secret chamber deep within the fort's underground tunnels. So, the stone is in the fort, Sam said, and Vikram Shetty is digging around the fort. He is looking for it. If he finds it and removes it completely, or destroys it, the village will die, Kamla said. The land will become barren. The water will disappear. Everything will turn to dust. Sam folded the papers carefully and put them back in the box. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. He was not a hero. He was not a warrior or a guardian. He was just a young man from the city who worked in an office and ate takeaway food for dinner most nights. But he was old Hari's grandson, and old Hari had believed in him. We need to get to the fort before Vikram finds the stone, Sam said. The fort is on his land now, Balu said. He has guards and fences. How will we get in? Sam looked at his grandfather's maps spread on the table. Among them, he found a drawing that showed underground tunnels leading from the village to the fort. There was a way in that Vikram did not know about. We go underground, Sam said, pointing at the map. There is a tunnel that starts from the old temple at the center of the village. It goes under the hill and comes up inside the fort. Balu and Kamla exchanged a look. The old temple had been abandoned for years. Nobody went there because people said it was haunted. Strange sounds came from it at night. Now Sam understood why. The sounds were probably coming from the tunnel, maybe even from Vikram's digging on the other side of the hill. We go tonight, Sam said, before Vikram gets any closer to the stone. He did not feel brave. He felt scared and uncertain, and very far from home. But when he looked at Kamla's hopeful face and Balu's determined eyes, he knew he had made the right choice. Whatever was waiting for them in the darkness under the hill, they would face it together. The sun went down, and the fog began to creep into the village like a living thing. It came from the direction of the hill, just as Kamla had said. It was thick and white and cold, and it moved slowly through the streets like a river of smoke. Sam watched it from the window of his grandfather's house and felt the hair on his arms stand up. There was something unnatural about this fog. It did not move like normal fog. It seemed to have a purpose, a direction, as if it was searching for something. At 9 o'clock, Sam, Balu, and Kamla met at the old temple. Sam had wanted Kamla to stay behind because of her age, but she had refused. I have lived in this village for 73 years, she had said. If it dies, I want to be there fighting for it, not sitting at home peeling potatoes. The old temple was a small stone building covered in vines and moss. Its roof had partly fallen in, and the wooden door hung on one hinge. Inside, it smelled like damp stone and rotting wood. The statues of the gods were still there, but their faces had been worn smooth by time. Spiderwebs hung from every corner. The floor was covered in dead leaves and dirt. Sam checked his grandfather's map again with his phone light. According to the drawing, the entrance to the tunnel was behind the main altar. They pushed the heavy stone altar to one side. It took all of Balu's strength, and both Sam and Kamla pushing with everything they had. Behind it, in the wall, there was a dark opening just large enough for a person to crawl through. Cold air blew from the opening. It smelled like deep earth and old metal. "I will go first," Baloo said. He got down on his hands and knees and crawled into the opening. Sam followed, and Kamla came last. The crawl space was tight and uncomfortable. The stone pressed against their backs, and the ground was wet and slippery. Sam could hear Baloo breathing heavily ahead of him, and Kamla's slow, steady breathing behind. After about 20 meters, the crawl space opened into a proper tunnel. They could stand up, though Baloo had to bend his head a little because of his height. The tunnel was about 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. The walls were rough stone, and the floor sloped gently downward. They were going under the hill. Sam led the way with his phone light. The tunnel was straight for a while, then it began to curve. As they went deeper, the air got colder and damper. Water dripped from the ceiling. Strange marks covered the walls. They were the same symbols Sam had seen in his grandfather's secret room, the circle with the flame inside it. There were also words in the old language, carved deep into the stone. "What do they say?" Sam asked Kamla, who knew some of the old language. She studied the carvings, moving her fingers over them slowly. "They are warnings. They say that only those with pure purpose may walk this path. Those who come with greed in their hearts will find only darkness." They walked for about 20 minutes. The tunnel went deeper and deeper. Sam could feel the weight of the hill above them. It was a heavy, pressing feeling, as if the whole world was sitting on his shoulders. He tried not to think about what would happen if the tunnel collapsed. Then they heard something, a low rumbling sound, like distant thunder. It came from ahead and below. The ground shook slightly under their feet. "That is the digging," Baloo whispered. "Vikram's machines." The rumbling came and went in waves. Each time it happened, dust fell from the tunnel ceiling. They moved faster, knowing that Vikram's operation was close. After another 10 minutes, they came to a place where the tunnel split into 2 paths. The left path went down steeply. The right path continued more or less level. Sam checked the map. According to his grandfather's notes, the right path led to the secret chamber where the Stone of Breath was hidden. The left path led to the lower levels of the fort, which were now probably part of Vikram's digging site. They took the right path. It was narrower than the main tunnel, and they had to walk in a single line. The carvings on the walls became more detailed and more frequent. Sam saw pictures of people gathered around a glowing object. He saw images of fields full of crops and rivers full of water. And he saw darker images too. Pictures of the land cracking open, trees dying, rivers going dry. It was the story of the Stone of Breath, carved in stone, telling what would happen if it was ever removed. The tunnel ended at a heavy stone door. It had no handle, no lock, and no visible way to open it. On its surface, there was one large carving of the circle with the flame symbol. Sam pushed the door, but it did not move. Baloo put his shoulder against it and pushed with all his strength, but it was like pushing a mountain. "There must be a way to open it," Sam said. He searched the walls around the door. His fingers found a small hole in the wall, about the size of a coin. He looked at it closely and saw that it was shaped like the symbol, a circle with a flame inside. "We need a key," Sam said, "something that fits this shape." He remembered the metal box from his grandfather's secret room. He had brought it with him, thinking the papers inside might be useful. He opened the box again and looked more carefully. Under the papers, in the bottom of the box, there was a small metal disc. It was old and dark with age, but when Sam cleaned it with his thumb, he could see the shape. A circle with a flame inside. He pressed the disc into the hole in the wall. It fit perfectly. There was a deep clicking sound, like old gears turning. Then the stone door slowly began to move. It slid to the side with a grinding noise that echoed through the tunnel. Dust filled the air. Behind the door was a room unlike anything Sam had ever seen. It was round, about 20 feet across, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness above. The walls were covered in carvings from floor to ceiling, and in the center of the room, on a stone pedestal, there was a glow. It was faint, barely more than a candle's light, but it was there, a soft, warm, golden glow, coming from a stone about the size of a man's fist. It was not a crystal or a gem. It looked like an ordinary rock, gray and rough, except for the light that pulsed from within it, like a heartbeat. "The stone of breath," Kamla whispered. There were tears in her eyes. Sam stepped closer to it. The warmth from the stone reached him like sunshine on a cold day. He could feel it in his bones, in his blood. It was the feeling of life itself, pure and simple and ancient. For a moment, all his fear and doubt disappeared. He felt connected to something much larger than himself, something that stretched back through centuries of time. But then he noticed something that made his blood go cold. The glow was fading. Slowly, steadily, the light was getting weaker, and on the far wall of the room there were fresh cracks in the stone. Through these cracks, Sam could hear the rumbling of machines. Vikram's digging was getting close, very close. The vibrations were damaging the chamber, and the stone's power was draining. "We do not have much time," Sam said. "If the digging reaches this chamber, the stone could be destroyed, or Vikram will take it." "Can we move it?" Balu asked. "I do not think so," Kamla said. "The old stories say the stone must stay in the earth to work. If it is taken above ground, its power dies." "Then we have to stop Vikram from reaching it," Sam said. As if in answer to his words, the rumbling suddenly got much louder. The whole room shook. Dust and small rocks fell from the ceiling. And then they heard a new sound. Voices, human voices, echoing from somewhere behind the walls. Workers shouting, machines roaring. They were breaking through. "They are coming," Balu said, his face pale. Sam looked around the room desperately. There had to be something, some way to protect the stone. His grandfather had spent years studying this. There had to be an answer in his notes. He pulled out the papers and flipped through them with shaking hands. And there, on the last page, written in his grandfather's handwriting, he found something. It was not a solution. It was a riddle. The stone does not need a wall to protect it. It needs a voice to wake it. Speak the words that the first guardian spoke, and the stone will protect itself. "The words," Sam said urgently to Kamla. "The first guardian's words. Do you know them?" Kamla shook her head. "I do not know them, but they might be here." She pointed at the carvings on the walls. "Somewhere in all of this. We have to find them before the walls come down." The machines roared again. A crack appeared in the far wall, and through it, Sam could see the faint glow of electric lights. They had minutes, maybe less, before Vikram's workers broke through. Sam turned to the walls and began reading. Somewhere in these ancient carvings was the answer. Sam's eyes moved across the carvings on the walls as fast as they could. The symbols and pictures blurred together in the dim light of the dying stone. His phone light jumped from one section to another. He did not know the old language well enough. He could pick out some words, but the full meaning escaped him like water through open fingers. Kamla was on the other side of the room, tracing the carvings with her old, wrinkled hands. She was reading aloud in a low murmur, translating bits and pieces. "This part talks about the first harvest after the stone was placed," she said. "This part describes the rivers flowing strong. This part talks about the covenant between the guardian and the earth." The crack in the far wall grew wider. Sam could now see a drill bit pushing through the stone. The sound was terrible, a high-pitched screaming of metal against rock. So close. "Kamla, please hurry," Sam begged. Balu had picked up a large piece of fallen stone and was standing near the crack, ready to fight if anyone came through. His face was set hard, his jaw tight. He looked like a man who had decided he would rather die standing than live on his knees. Kamla moved along the wall, her lips moving silently as she read. Then she stopped. Her hand pressed flat against the stone. "Here," she said, her voice shaking. "I found something. It says the words of awakening at the top. But Sam, the carving is damaged. Some of the words are broken away." Sam rushed to her side. She was right. The section of wall was cracked, and parts of the carved text had crumbled. He could see maybe half the words. The rest were gone, lost to time and damage. "What can you read?" Sam asked. Kamla read slowly. "I am the voice of the earth. I speak for the roots below and the sky above. I call upon the breath that sleeps in stone to—" She stopped. "The next part is broken. I cannot read it." She moved to the next line. "And let no hand of greed touch what belongs to all. The earth remembers. The stone—" She stopped again. "More damage here." Sam stared at the broken words. It was not enough. Even if they spoke the words they had, there were too many gaps. The spell, the prayer, the incantation, whatever it was, would not be complete. The drill broke through the wall. A hole appeared about the size of a fist, and electric light poured through it. Sam could hear men talking on the other side. One voice was louder than the others, giving orders. It was a sharp, commanding voice that expected to be obeyed. "Make the hole bigger," the voice said. "We are almost in. I can see a light inside." Sam's heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. He turned back to the stone of breath. Its glow was even weaker now. It pulsed slowly, like a heart that was tired and struggling to keep beating. He walked up to the stone and stood in front of it. He did not know what he was doing. He had no plan. But something inside him, some deep instinct that he did not understand, told him to speak. Not the ancient words, not the guardian's prayer. Just speak from his own heart. So he did. "I am Sam," he said, his voice quiet at first, then growing stronger. "I am the grandson of Hari, who was the last guardian of this stone. I do not know the old words. I do not know the rituals or the prayers. I am just a man from the city who eats takeaway food and works in an office. But I am here. I came because my grandfather believed I would. I came because this village needs help. And I am asking, if you can hear me, if there is any power left in you, please do not let them take you. Please do not let this village die." The room went silent. Even the drilling seemed to pause for a second. The stone's glow flickered. Then Kamla stepped forward and added her voice. "I am Kamla. I have lived in Mirpur all my life. I was born here. I married here. I buried my husband here. This land is in my blood. I have watched it die slowly for 5 years, and it has broken my heart. Please do not let the greed of one man destroy what has taken centuries to build." Balu, still holding his stone weapon, spoke without turning around. "I am Balu. My wife is dying because of what this man is doing to our land. I am not a brave man. I have been afraid for a long time. But I am not afraid anymore. Whatever happens tonight, I want to be on the right side." The stone flickered again. Then something changed. The light, which had been fading, suddenly grew a tiny bit brighter, just a fraction. But Sam noticed it. He felt it too, like a warm hand pressing against his chest. Then the drilling started again, harder and faster. A man's face appeared in the opening, dusty and sweating. He looked into the room, saw the glowing stone, and his eyes went wide. "Sir, there is something here, a glowing rock of some kind, and there are people inside." The commanding voice came closer. "People, move aside." A face appeared at the hole. It was a man in his 50s, well-groomed even in this dusty underground place. He had sharp eyes, a clean-shaved face, and the look of someone who was used to getting what he wanted. This was Vikram Shetty. He looked at Sam, then at Kamla and Balu, then at the stone. A smile spread across his face. Well, well, what do we have here? Trespassers on my property. And what is this beautiful thing? His eyes locked on the stone. I have been looking for you for a very long time. This is not your property, Sam said. This chamber is under the village land, not under the fort. Vikram laughed. My lawyers will disagree. But we do not need to discuss property lines right now, do we? What I see here is a fascinating geological discovery on land that I have legal access to. My drilling has uncovered a natural underground chamber with an unusual mineral formation. That is how it will be reported. It is not a mineral, Sam said, and you know it. Vikram's smile did not waver, but something shifted in his eyes. Something cold and calculating. I know exactly what it is, boy. I have spent 3 years and a great deal of money finding it. Do you think I am going to let 3 villagers stop me? He barked orders at his workers. Break through the rest of this wall. I want full access to this chamber within the hour. The machines roared back to life. The wall began to crumble faster. Chunks of stone fell away, making the opening larger with every passing minute. Sam stood his ground between Vikram and the stone. If you take it out of the earth, its power dies. You will gain nothing. Vikram stepped through the now large opening and walked into the chamber. 2 of his workers followed him, big men with hard faces. I do not want to take it out of the earth, Vikram said. I want to harness it. I have scientists working for me, engineers. They believe this energy source can be captured and directed. Imagine it, boy. A power that makes land fertile and water clean. A power that heals and strengthens. Do you know what that is worth? It is worth billions, trillions. I am going to build a machine around this stone that will extract its energy and sell it to the highest bidder. You cannot bottle life and sell it, Kamla said angrily. I can and I will, Vikram replied. This world runs on money, old woman. Everything has a price, even magic. He signaled to his workers. Move these people out of the way, gently if possible. I do not want any unnecessary trouble. The 2 workers moved towards Sam and Balu. Balu raised his stone weapon. Sam clenched his fists. And behind them, the stone of breath pulsed one more time, its light flickering like a candle in the wind. Then Kamla did something that nobody expected. She walked past Sam and Balu, past the advancing workers, right up to Vikram Shetty. She stood in front of him, barely reaching his chest, and she looked up at his face with her sharp old eyes. You think you are powerful because you have money and machines, she said softly. But there is a power in this world that does not care about money. It does not care about machines. It cares about balance. And you, Vikram Shetty, have upset the balance. She placed her hand on the ground, and she began to speak in the old language, not the broken words from the wall. Different words. Words that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her, from a place she did not know she had. Her voice was low and rhythmic, like a song, like a prayer, like the beating of a drum made of earth and stone. The ground trembled, the walls shook, and the stone of breath blazed with sudden, brilliant light. The light that burst from the stone of breath was not like any light Sam had ever seen. It was not white or yellow or gold. It was every color at once and no color at all. It filled the chamber like water fills a bowl, touching every wall, every crack, every face. It was warm and alive, and it hummed with a sound that Sam felt in his bones rather than heard with his ears. Vikram stumbled backward, his confident smile gone. His workers dropped their tools and covered their eyes. The machines above them went silent, as if their power had been cut. In the sudden quiet, the only sound was Kamla's voice, still speaking in the old language, her words rising and falling like waves on a shore. Sam did not understand the words, but he understood their meaning. He could feel it in the air around him. The words were about connection, about the bond between humans and the earth they lived on, about the agreement that the first guardian had made centuries ago. The earth would give its gifts freely, its water, its food, its life, and in return, humans would protect it and never take more than they needed. The Stone of Breath was the seal on that agreement. It was not a weapon. It was not a source of power to be captured. It was a promise made solid. Kamla's voice grew stronger, the light from the stone grew brighter, and something began to happen to the chamber itself. The cracks in the walls started to close. The broken carvings began to fill in, as if invisible hands were repairing them. The damaged text on the wall, the words of awakening that had been broken and lost, slowly reappeared, letter by letter, as if the stone itself was remembering them. Vikram recovered from his shock faster than his men. He was not the kind of man who stayed surprised for long. He pushed forward through the light, reaching for the stone with both hands. "I do not care about your fairy tales," he shouted. "This thing has power, and power belongs to whoever takes it." He grabbed the stone. The moment his fingers touched it, the light changed. It turned from warm to harsh, from gentle to fierce. A wave of energy pushed outward from the stone like an explosion. Vikram was thrown backward across the room. He hit the far wall hard and slid to the ground. His two workers were thrown out through the opening they had drilled and landed in the tunnel beyond. The drilling machine, a massive thing of steel and gears, cracked down the middle as if it was made of glass. Sam was knocked off his feet too, but he felt no pain. The energy that hit him was not violent. It was more like a strong wind that pushed him firmly but carefully to the ground. Balu was the same. Kamla, still speaking, was not moved at all. She stood like a rock in a river, the light flowing around her, but not touching her. Vikram lay against the wall, groaning. His expensive clothes were torn and covered in dust. His hands, which had touched the stone, were red and blistered. He looked at them with wide, frightened eyes. For the first time, the mask of confidence was completely gone. Underneath it was just a scared man who had reached for something bigger than himself and had been burned. "You felt it," Sam said, getting to his feet. "The stone knows the difference between a hand that protects and a hand that takes." Vikram said nothing. He just stared at his burned hands. Kamla's voice slowed and finally stopped. The light from the stone did not fade this time. It stayed bright, brighter than before, pulsing with a strong, steady rhythm. The chamber felt alive. The carvings on the walls seemed to move in the light, telling their ancient story to anyone who would watch. Sam looked up a wall where the words of awakening had been restored. He could see them clearly now, complete and unbroken. He did not need to read them. Kamla had already spoken them, not from the wall, but from her heart. The stone had recognized the truth in her words and had responded. "How did you know those words?" Sam asked Kamla quietly. The old woman looked as surprised as anyone. "I do not know," she said. "They just came to me, like a memory that was not mine, like something that had been sleeping inside me and finally woke up." Sam understood. The guardianship was not just about bloodlines and training. It was about love for the land, about the willingness to stand up and speak when the earth needed a voice. Old Hari had been the guardian by tradition. Kamla had become one by heart. They turned to deal with Vikram. The businessman was sitting against the wall, his burned hands in his lap, looking smaller than before. His workers had fled through the tunnels. His machines were broken. His plans were ruined. "You will take your machines and your men and your drilling equipment, and you will never come back." "And if I do not?" Vikram said, but his voice had no fight left in it. "The stone knows you now," Kamla said. The earth knows your face and your intentions. Wherever you go on this land, it will push you away. You felt it once. Imagine feeling it every time you set foot here. Vikram looked at the stone, still glowing fiercely, and something broke inside him. Maybe it was his arrogance. Maybe it was his certainty that everything could be bought and sold. Whatever it was, it left his eyes like smoke leaving a chimney. And what remained was just a tired old man who had lost. He got up slowly, holding his burned hands close to his chest. "You win," he said quietly. Then he walked through the broken wall and disappeared into the tunnels. They waited in the chamber for a long time after that, making sure Vikram was truly gone. Sam used the time to study the restored carvings and copy the words of awakening into his phone. He photographed every wall, every symbol, every picture. This knowledge would not be lost again. When they finally climbed back through the tunnel and emerged from the old temple, the village was waiting for them. Not the dead, empty village they had left behind. Something had changed in the hours they had been underground. The fog was gone. Completely gone. For the first time in years, the sky above Mirpur was clear. Stars shone bright and sharp, like diamonds scattered across black cloth. The air was fresh and clean, and smelled like rain, even though there were no clouds. And the villagers were awake, all of them. Old men and women who had been sitting on their doorsteps like statues were now standing in the street, looking up at the sky with wonder on their faces. They could feel it. The change in the air, the change in the ground beneath their feet. Life was returning. Over the next few days, the change became even more obvious. The dried-up well began to fill with water again. The banyan tree, which had been yellow and dying, started putting out new green leaves. The ground, which had been hard and cracked, became soft and dark. People who had been sick started to feel better. Balu's wife Sita was the first. She woke up the morning after their underground journey, sat up in bed, and asked for food. Balu cried for an hour. Vikram Shetty was true to his word. His workers packed up the heavy machines and drove them away on large trucks. The drilling site was abandoned. Within weeks, grass started growing over the scars in the earth. Within months, it was as if the machines had never been there at all. Sam stayed in the village much longer than he had planned. His few days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. He could not leave. There was too much to do. He organized the rebuilding of the village with the help of the remaining people. He used his city skills to bring attention to Mirpur. He wrote articles about the village, leaving out the magical parts, but highlighting the beauty of the place and the need to save dying villages across the country. Slowly, people began to notice. Some families who had left started to come back. A young teacher arrived and reopened the school. A doctor set up a small clinic. Sam sealed the tunnel and the underground chamber. He reinforced the stone door and hid the entrance in the temple. The stone of breath did not need to be visited or touched. It just needed to be left alone, resting in the earth, doing what it had always done, breathing life into the land. He shared the knowledge with Kamla and Balu, making them co-guardians. The guardianship would no longer depend on one family or one bloodline. It would be shared by those who loved the village and were willing to protect it. On the day Sam finally decided to go back to the city, Kamla walked with him to the bus stop. The road was no longer empty. Other people walked along it too, some going to the market in the next town, some coming back with supplies. Children ran past them, laughing. The sound of their laughter was the sweetest thing Sam had ever heard. "Will you come back?" Kamla asked. "Every month," Sam said. "And one day, I will come back for good." Kamla smiled. "Your grandfather would be proud." Sam looked back at the village. The banyan tree stood tall and green against the blue sky. The well sparkled in the sunlight. The old fort on the hill was quiet and peaceful, its broken walls wrapped in wildflowers. And somewhere deep below the ground, the stone of breath pulsed gently, steady and strong, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Sam picked up his bag, smiled at Kamla, and got on the bus. As it pulled away, he watched Mirpur grow smaller in the window. But it did not look small anymore. It looked alive. It looked like it had always been meant to look. It looked like home. And deep underground, in its dark chamber of carved stone, the stone of breath glowed warm and bright, as it had for centuries, as it would for centuries to come. It did not need words or prayers or rituals. It only needed people who remembered that the earth is not something to be owned or sold or drained. It is something to be loved. And love, as it turns out, is the oldest and most powerful magic there is.